Thank you all for coming. I'm Susan Moynihan. I'm your moderator, and I'm your venue chair, so I hope you guys have had a great time at the hotel. This is going to be, I think, the best reading of the session because it's about world building, immersive world building. And our authors are taking you from 1300s Florence, 1920s Egypt, 1970s New York City, ancient Arabia, 1930s Norway, 1980s Amalfi Coast, and present-day Amalfi Coast. And they're all really, really different worlds, so I can't wait to hear how you're going to do it. They are each going to introduce themselves, not that they need an introduction, and then read a passage. After that, I will get things started with a question, and then Chris will be going around to take questions from everybody else. So let's have a great session. Thank you guys for being a part of it.
I'm Brock Meier, and the book that I'm going to be reading from is The Stonecutter. It is set in first century Arabia for the most part, but in this particular scene, we're on the deck of a ship that is returning from China to India. The two characters in the scene are a young man named Shamir, who originally was on the fast track of the art world in Petra, to become a master sculptor, but through unfortunate circumstances, he really lost his ability to pursue that profession. So he's been on a quest to search for something that coincidentally is called the Shamir, that he believes is going to restore his profession. He is, at this point, he's been hired by a young woman named Tinika, who is the daughter of a gem merchant in India, and they've gone to China to do some pearl trades. So he's the protector of this young woman and also her mouthpiece in the trading operations because she's a woman. So we're on the deck of the ship returning to India. Having passed through the narrow straits at Malay and on the last leg of their journey west and south, the Begum of Bengal paralleled the Pandayan east coast of the great peninsula, steering to pass through the strait at the island of Elam. Since the winds blew constant in a favorable direction, the captain filled the yards with sail and gave the ship its head, and so they flew back to Missouri. Shamir and Tinika stood together on deck, watching the sun bury itself in the waves. The sails towered above them like clouds, amber and ochre in the failing light. Below an acre of billowed sail, the ship lumbered and lunged, a great wooden sea monster swimming the green-blue sea. As it climbed each swell to slide down the far side, its massive beams and the ribs flexed under the strain of its cargo's burden. And with each slight flexure, the volume of the hull expanded and contracted in rhythm, causing the hold to breathe over the cargo of cinnamon, malabathrum, and spikenard, its exhale lading the sea breeze with gracious and mysterious fragrances of the east. Tinika leaned her back into the secure comfort of her protector, friend, and confidant. She said, "I've heard from the crew that we returned 10 days early and may anchor just off the coast for a few days, awaiting a berth at the pier. When we finally reach Missouri, what will you do?" He wrapped her slight frame in his arms to guard her from the heave of the ship, and he enveloped her in his cloak to shield her from the cool wind and spray. The sun lolled on the horizon, flattening and fattening to settle in the sea. She looked up at him, expecting his response to her question. The sun's last orangey rays illuminated her face like burnished bronze with glints of gold. The weight of her words and the import of the moment paralyzed his voice. His heart restrained him from speech. She said, "You need not chase your quarry, your Shamir. If you ask my Father for my hand, I know he will not refuse you. And if he does yet live, he will surely bequeath you the business upon his death. His gem trade will be yours, as I am yours. You said yourself you have no family in Nabatea, or even in this world. Could not your family begin with me and grow from here? He held her closer and felt her heart pulsing with life inside her. His own pulse pounded in his ears. The mighty ship rose and fell with the rhythm of the rolling swells. As it wallowed in the wave troughs, sea spray flew across the deck, wetting their faces with cool mist. And as it rose to the wave peaks, the strength of their passion rose with it. When the sun finally drowned itself in the sea, it emitted a final flickering flash of green. She said to him, "Please, take me below." She clung to his neck, and he swept her up in effortless motion to fulfill her request. Out of the five senses, I think the one that really kind of was difficult for me in this is the sense of smell. One thing you have to know about first century Arabia, or Nabatea as they called it, is that they were pretty much the world economic power at that time, even greater than the Roman Empire. And the way that they became so wealthy was trading luxury goods to Rome and Greece and all around the Mediterranean basin. And the one thing that really made them rich was a substance they called it labuna. Today we call it frankincense. And because it was such an integral part of the story, I'd never smelled frankincense. So I thought, in order to really describe the fragrance, I have to smell it myself. So I went online, found some, and I burned it as incense around my house for weeks at a time, just to kind of immerse myself in what that was so I could use words to describe what it smells like. Let me give you a 30,000-foot view of this. So it doesn't directly have to do with pacing, but it certainly includes that. Recently, I guess you'd call it a simile, came to me about historical fiction being like a house. And I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker, so humor me. Let me read you a brief simile here. For an author of historical fiction, research is like the foundation. Though mostly invisible, it is absolutely critical. We must first dig deep down to the bedrock, if possible, then strong stones dressed and laid beside and atop one another form the basis upon which the whole visible construction will stand. Next comes the construction of the visible house itself. This is what many called world-building. Up go four walls and roof, a blue and peach Persian carpet on the floor, and above the bronze oil lamp, soot stains on the plastered ceiling. One should be able to inspect the details of a painting by Modigliani and feel the privileged comfort of sitting on down-stuffed pink silk pillows strewn across the floor. But a house without occupants is only an inert structure. It must serve life within. It must be peopled with a whole family of characters, arcs, plot, voice, mood, themes, pacing. A house empty is a useless contrivance. So world building is so important, but it always has to serve the inhabitants of the house. This is my debut novel, and I wrote it in third person, I suppose in part because I really wanted a classic feel to it. When you go back to the first person, there's very little first person literature written. So I just wanted that kind of a feel to it. The book that I'm writing right now, which is at the same time, it's about Queen of Arabia in that day. And I originally started writing it. I probably got halfway through it, writing it in the third person. But I really wanted to give so much more of an insight into who I believed that character was. And it really just seemed more appropriate to write it basically as a diary. So it allows me much easier to get into her head and to describe her own emotions on paper in her own voice.
I'm curious if you think that your choice
A novel that I go back to a lot is, it's a pretty old novel from, I believe, the early 50s, a novel called Perelandra by C.S. Lewis, which is just absolutely rich with world building. The story itself is very cosmic, so it's very different than the things I write. But I keep going back to it just because it is so inspirational in his language that he uses for world building.
Thank you guys so much. This was fantastic. And now it's lunchtime.
Wait, can I see your rings?
Oh, yeah.